Hi, welcome to today's Voice of Greatness broadcast. My name is Joel Bryant and I'm your host. And on today's broadcast, I just want to take a few moments and speak with you about something that I call the angst of greatness. Now, you don't have to be pursuing greatness to experience angst. To experience angst, you simply have to just wake up in the morning and go about your day. And at some point in the course of your day, your week, or your month, you're going to have the feeling of just anxiety or uncertainty or just unsettledness and just sort of an emotional sort of disarray, and not necessarily feeling overwhelmed, but just feeling disconnected. But there's a certain angst that comes not just from being alive, but from having lofty goals and pursuits that takes time and takes effort and takes things and oftentimes are beyond really our ability to control. And so we have to learn not to base our happiness and our peace and our joy on our outcomes, but more so on our insight. Because angst is really a part of life, but there's a special angst that dreamers and that people committed to greatness often experience, and it's very painful and very powerful. I find that a lot of times people that have a desire for greatness and a deep passion, they're very emotional people. And they seem to have an acute sensitivity to whatever emotion they're experiencing. Their sensitivity is acute and keen and oftentimes crippling. And so you've got to be able to handle the angst of greatness. And let me just give you one simple tip that I use. As a writer and as a philosopher, I am prone to feeling a lot of different feelings. Oftentimes, I don't even know the source or the substance for those feelings, but they come unsolicited and they leave unprovoked. And so what I've learned to do, and what I want to suggest to you dreamers, you stewards and candidates of greatness, I want to encourage you, regardless of your path, your ambition, your aspiration, turn angst into art. That's what all great writers do. A great writer knows how to turn angst into art. Whether it's a poem or prose or a short story or an ode or some other type of literary creation, they turn that feeling that they're feeling into something that other people can identify with. You may be a songwriter, an architect, a builder. It does not matter. When you have that overwhelming feeling, that overarching emotion that you can't seem to get rid of, don't try to shake it. Just direct it. Turn angst into art. And when you can't turn it into art, just be with the angst. Because one thing I find, angst is kind of like the ebb and flow of life. And you can use this for any emotion. It's like the tide that comes in. It may come in overwhelming, but when it leaves, when it subsides, when it recedes, it's going to leave something on the seashore of your life. And if you will walk that shore after that tide subsides and be very prudent and very patient and have an expectation, you're going to see that every emotion that you experience, no matter how negative it feels and no matter how annulling it is, when it leaves you, it will leave something in your life to enrich you and enable you to be better than you were, wiser than you were, stronger than you knew. So we don't hear that a lot in this culture, because this culture is based on always feeling good, always being happy, always being upbeat, denying the fact that we have any type of feeling other than optimism and excitement. But you and I both know in the quietness of our heart that even when we have the best of circumstances, there's something taking place in our souls that we are not even privy to. And when we try to figure it out, instead of just let it have its way with us, then we oftentimes fall into an even deeper stupor or depression or anxiety, because now we can't figure out why we can't figure it out. And that's a recipe for emotional insanity and emotional instability. So I want to encourage you. I'm not talking about those people who have clinical depression and those kinds of things. I am talking about the angst that comes from not being able to control the outcomes and get the results that you desire when you desire them the way you desire them. You've got to learn that those seasons when the angst comes, that feeling of being overwhelmed and anxious and forlorn and melancholy, turn that angst into art. Despite your particular path or aptitude, you can create something out of that emotion that will give you the mobility towards your purpose. And see, that way, nothing in our lives is ever wasted. We may waste emotions, we may waste experiences. But if we are good stewards and we are apt students of greatness, we learn to turn everything in our lives as a platform to transform our reality, even the negative. So I want to encourage you, angst is normal. Nothing wrong with it. It is one of the greatest teachers that you can ever have if you learn to befriend, and that's true of any emotion. See, and so if you want to really have a successful journey towards greatness and not be anxious about getting there, and then once you get there, you're going to be anxious about losing it. I mean, you really have to begin to really get some kind of emotional stability. And emotional stability is not ever having an emotion. It's learning to be with the emotion. So the emotion does not weaken you, and you're not emaciated, and you're not depleted and defeated, and you're not undone and overwhelmed by the emotion. If you do have those feelings, they are temporary and they're evanescent, which means they're fleeting and short-lived. And if you will do that with the understanding that your soul has seasons and cycles that it must go through, that's true because we're just human beings. But when you are pursuing greatness, then we're going to be more susceptible and more vulnerable and more available to those feelings because we're reaching for something that other people have deemed themselves not worth their pursuit. And so they won't understand our feelings. And don't indict people when they don't understand. I mean, just think about this. You have not always understood. See, if we remember this, it will help us in those moments not to charge and accuse people, our circumstances, and most of all, we won't accuse and condemn ourselves because we have these feelings. We'll say, you know what, that's normal. But I'm not going to let what's normal become negative and annulling and disenfranchise me from myself, my goals, or my friends or my family. If you have that attitude, then when the angst comes, you'll turn it into art. And if you can't turn it into art, you will endure it and let it enrich your life. And when it recedes and subsides, you'll look for the treasure or the seashells on the shore of your life. And you'll take that and make something out of it that you never could had you not had that emotion. I want to encourage you today. Greatness is not just about our technical mastery or our tactical proficiency. It's not just our ability to demonstrate our exploits and our excellence in the practical realm. It is also about having the emotional depth, the emotional maturity, the character, being able to cultivate every disposition in such a way that it leaves us better than we ever could had we not had the experience and the emotions that came with it. And if you'll do this, you'll be much further along, not only in your journey towards greatness, but your heart will be lighter, even when things come that seem to try to oppress and constrict your emotions. You'll still have an intuitive understanding because you have insight. And your emotions are dictated by your insight, not by your outcome. I want to encourage you today. Stay on the path. Stay in pursuit. Believe in your greatness. Believe in your dreams. Because you can get there from wherever you are. This has been the Voice of Greatness broadcast. My name is Joel Bryant. And until next time, have a greatness week. Because you can.